Hello and welcome to today's video. Today's video is a little different. This might not be for all the subscribers that I have out there because I know I have a lot of friends who subscribe who are already super into makeup, but I also know I have a couple friends who watch a couple of my videos and they don't quite fully get it because they're not quite into makeup. So I figured maybe I have some friends out there who might be interested in getting into makeup a little bit more, but they don't quite know where to start. So this video is for you. Now, little disclaimer here, not a makeup artist, I'm just a makeup nerd. I really like it. I've found that it's been such a good creative outlet, not to mention the community that is on YouTube is so big and close-knit. So for me, that's why I'm super into it. But I spent probably 10 years or more wanting to get into makeup and not doing it. Like I would do something like I would buy a bright lipstick like this guy here and would go home, put it on, and then my face, like I just would be shocked and like, nope, that doesn't work. Guess makeup isn't for me. I'm just not one of those girls. And I would back off and not try things for a little while. And so it was like a little cycle like that. I would go try something new and it just wouldn't work. So this is coming from someone who I've been in that situation for years, just being intimidated by everything that's out there. And maybe these three little tips can help you if you're actually interested in learning more a little bit about makeup. So tip number one is to start slow. So actually one of my subscribers mentioned in the comments this to me the other day when I was doing a lipstick roulette video, and I was talking about a bright pink lipstick that I had put on, and at the time I was like, I'm just not sure if this tone looks right on me because it's kind of a blue pink lipstick almost, and I just remember being like, oh, I'm not used to seeing myself in that. I'm used to seeing myself in like oranges and reds and like brown tones, but like a blue pink one, a blue leaning pink kind of scared me. And she said, nope. And people in the comment section were super nice and they're like, you know, this looks good. Take our word, we mean it. And I was kind of ruminating that for a little while, and they're absolutely right. If you're someone who doesn't wear a lot of makeup and you go out and buy a full face of makeup and try to put it on yourself, chances are you're gonna sit down and you're gonna be overwhelmed by what you're seeing because you're not used to seeing your face like that. So you're probably, our mental status typically is to start looking for everything that's wrong versus like taking it in that you just tried something and that was creative and you did something, you created this thing. So chances are you're going to be uncomfortable with it. And that was totally the case. Now that I look back on my relationship with makeup, I would skip foundation a lot, or I would use like a really, really light foundation, and then I would try to wear like a bright pink lipstick, and it would be kind of just shocking and like wouldn't match things. My face would be, I don't know, like there wouldn't be any definition, there wouldn't be any drama anywhere else except for here, and my face was just overwhelmed by this bright pink or bright, red lipstick that I didn't quite know how to wear. And so when I finally slowed down and said, okay, let me just start with my face, my base. And I started slow, and I bought, I think the first like foundation that I actually liked that I bought was like a tinted moisturizer that just gave my skin a little bit of coverage, but it was super easy to apply. I used my fingers with it. I remember putting it on and being like, okay, this looks very nice. Like I can deal with this. And I started there. And for the longest time, I just put that on. And then I added a little bronzer because I was used to having some color. And to me, again, that was super, super normal since I played outside. I played sports my like entire life. So I was used to having like a little bit of color here and here. And those were two products that I started out with that I was super into. Another product that I've learned that I love is brows. Like even on days when I don't wear any face makeup, I will typically run something through my brows because it just gives my face a little bit of shape. And at the same time, it looks effortless. It looks like it's natural. So it's kind of like that mentality of a little bit goes a long way. Don't feel the need to go do a full face of makeup with lashes and all of this color if you're not used to doing it. Start slow, go slow, and work your way up to trying other things. All right, tip number 2 is to get to know your skin. And I know that this sounds kind of silly, maybe, but to me, this is super important. I think when I went into this, I kind of realized the more YouTube videos I would watch, people would talk about skin type, and I'm like, I don't understand why everybody's obsessed with their skin type. So then I was like, well, let me figure this out for myself. And then I just took a guess. I was like, well, I guess I'm dry skin. I have dry skin. And I went out and I would try products that were meant for people with dry skin, and they would like melt off my my like T-zone area. Then I had to kind of slowly take stock of, oh, maybe I have oily skin. So then I would use oily skin products, and they would like catch here on my forehead. I had to come to know my skin and realize that I have combo skin. So I have, very dry skin out here, and then my T-zone is just, it can deteriorate makeup very quickly. So I had to kind of take stock of my skin and learn skin type that way. But that's not the only thing that I've benefited from learning about my skin. As I've gotten to know my skin type, I've also kind of learned some of the issues that my skin's facing as I'm aging, which means that mostly for me, it means that I've had to realize that I've done a lot of sun damage to my skin. I have a lot of hyperpigmentation because of the sun damage that I've done to my skin, and I have a lot of like wrinkles and like some other skin issues here from sun damage. And I've had to learn that, okay, if I want to kind of correct those, then these are things that I can do not only with makeup, but skincare can help too. And so for example, let's talk about my wrinkles. I'm not necessarily ashamed of my wrinkles because I have an expressive face, and I would probably have wrinkles even if I didn't have a ton of sun damage. But one of the best things that I've learned to do for my wrinkles is that if I want to wear eyeshadow, I always put on my eyeshadow first, because when I'm doing my eyeshadow, I'm typically doing this a lot and I'm wrinkling my forehead. And if I put on foundation and then I do that, my wrinkles, even if I set it with powder, even if I do everything I can, those wrinkles in those areas are gonna get more deep. It's gonna look more noticeable. Whereas if I do my eyeshadow and then I go in and kind of work on my foundation after I've done that, I'm doing less of this, and so the foundation still is going to settle in my wrinkles some because they're there, they just exist, but they don't do it as much. So there are little things like that. If you start to realize that you have problem areas, there are certain little tips and tricks that you can pick up along the way that might help you with a couple of those areas. And tip number 3, be okay with trying different things. Now, when I was first getting into makeup, if you're anything like me, I was not willing to spend a lot of money on makeup, mostly because I had there was so much trial and so much error when I was trying to get into makeup. So to me, especially when I was starting to get in more and more, I'm like, well, I'm not about to go buy a $30 bronzer because chances are I'm not gonna like my makeup anyways. So I'm not saying that you need to go buy a $30 bronzer, but also, if you're buying, your bronzers at the dollar store, which I was definitely doing that quite a bit, know that there are so many different types of makeup and all of them might not work for you. For example, there are bronzers with warm undertones, cool undertones, neutral undertones. And so, for example, I think like one of the earliest bronzers that I tried from the dollar store ended up being like really red toned, and it kind of made me look a little weird. I need a bronzer with a more neutral undertone because that's my normal undertone. So if you don't want to look orange, if you pick up a bronzer that makes you look orange, you're not doing anything wrong. You may just need to try another bronzer. Same goes with foundation and other products. I think another early mistake that I made watching bigger YouTubers is that they were ride or die for these full coverage foundations. And so I remember the first full coverage foundation I picked up, put on, and wore all day, and I remember just feeling, not only did I just feel uncomfortable because my skin it just feels heavy, but also it settled into my wrinkles and it just did not work for me. And something that I've learned from doing YouTube videos myself is that there are days where I put a little bit of really light tinted moisturizer, light coverage, and then I just spot conceal with concealer, and I'll love the way my face looks. Like, I will be in love with how my base makeup looks in person. I go and I'm like, well, let me sit down and film a quick video, and when I go to look at the footage, I hate it because what you see on camera looks very different from what you see in person. There's been times when I've done a video and I'm like, oh, my foundation's gonna look awful on camera today because it's just cakey. And when I get to to edit the footage, it looks fine. So don't feel the need to go out and buy like the most high coverage foundation. Again, you may want to try a light one. You may want to try a medium one. You may want to try a heavy coverage one. You may want to try just a tinted moisturizer. The good thing about makeup stores nowadays, especially somewhere like Sephora, even if you're not willing to spend that much money on a foundation, you can at least go in and try, like ask for, I want a medium coverage, I want a light coverage, and get a sample, and then kind of just see what you like coverage wise, and then you can kind of look at more affordable options and figure out which one might work for you. Another example for trying different things, because everything might not work for everybody, is I have two brushes to illustrate that point. Recently, I picked this brush here up, I believe last Christmas, and I was using it all through. It says it's a blush brush, but I realized I didn't really like it for my blush. It's a little bit too fluffy, deposited maybe a little bit too much color on my cheeks for my liking, and so I switched it to using it as a bronzer brush, and all winter I would use it on. It was super quick because it's so fluffy, and it would deposit a lot of color very quickly, and I was really enjoying it. As we moved into summer, this brush didn't work for me. I was like struggling to get my bronzer to show up, couldn't understand why, put it down for a couple months. Finally, at the end of summer, which I still had probably even more of a tan because we went on vacation during the end of summer, ended up picking up that same bronzer that had not shown up on me most of summer, and I picked up this older brush that I used to use for bronzer. This was my bronzer brush before that one. And it's way more dense, if you can see, not nearly as fluffy. Like, you can see the difference. And I used this with that same bronzer and worked it around the perimeter of my face, and it deposits so much more color. So, again, even tools may not work for everybody. One person's favorite bronzer brush might not work for another one's. Be okay with trying different things. I know that can be overwhelming, but if at first you don't succeed, try again. And I guess with that being said, a little bonus tip is to practice. Practice makes perfect. Have fun with makeup first and foremost. And so if you're enjoying trying out things, keep doing it. If you're not going anywhere all day, sit down, play with some makeup, have fun. Most importantly, have fun. All right, I hope you enjoyed this video. I hope you maybe learned a little something, and I hope to see you in the next one. Bye.